it's Graham Ninny. So happy to be here to read a story with you today. I have to tell you, I've been thinking a lot about that little monkey I love. I'm wondering, what in the world is he curious about today? So let's read Curious George Learns to Count from 1 to 50. This is George. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. This morning, George was curious about numbers. His friend, the man with the yellow hat, had been teaching him to count. Already, George could count to 5 on one hand and 10 on his 2 feet. "Good job, George," said his friend. "But you can count more than your fingers and toes. We're going into town today. I'll bet you can find lots of things to count along the way." That's a good idea. I wonder what he'll find to count. The number 50 sounded like a lot to George. He was curious. Could he find 50 things to count? First, George counted his bed, 1. Then he counted blankets, 2. He tossed his pillows and counted 1, 2, 3. He counted 4 legs on his bed and 5 pull toys. What else could George count? Why, there were lots of things in the toy box. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 toy boats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stuffed animals. And 10 balls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10! Wow, George is finding a lot of things to count. That's making me look around and think, what can Graham Ninny count? What can you count? George followed one bouncing ball into his friend's room. The man with the yellow hat was getting dressed. George wanted to dress up too. He saw 11 hats to choose from. What do all of these hats have in common? He found 12 ties, 13 socks, and 14 shoes. I don't know if the man with the yellow hat has a very diverse wardrobe, but I love that he has so many things to count. In the bathroom, George's friend had just finished brushing his teeth. "I'm going to make breakfast, George," he said. But George was still busy counting. He counted 15 blue tiles, 16 rubber ducks, and 17 shower rings. It was fun to count upside down. Then George drew a surprise for his friend. 18 toothpaste pictures. In the kitchen, George found more things to count. He stacked up 19 plates, 20 bowls, and 21 cups. He arranged 22 straws, 23 napkins, and 24 spoons. Then George counted out 25 blueberries. "Don't forget to count our pancakes," the man said. George counted while his friend flipped. 26! When George was full and his plate was empty, he was ready to count outside. I wonder if those were banana pancakes. 26! Wow! In the backyard, George counted 27 clouds floating by and 28 apples on the tree. Those look yummy. He's doing great counting. There was lots to do outside. George played with 29 bugs and gathered 30 acorns. He found 31 snails and arranged 32 sticks to create a design. Then George smelled the daisies. He picked 33. Wow. He's becoming quite the counter, isn't he? In his front yard, George counted 34 noisy birds and 35 leaves blowing in the air. There was something else in the air. A gust of wind scattered 36 letters with colorful stamps. George counted as he helped pick them up. "It's time to go into town, George," his friend said. "Do you remember how to walk there?" "Well then, you can lead the way." I love that George is being a helper, picking up those letters to help the post person, huh? George, curious as ever, took the long way from his house to town. As he walked, he counted 37 houses, 38 chimneys, and 39 trees. Can you follow George's path through his neighborhood? Sounds like we'd have to count to help us follow his path, huh? In town, George and his friends saw workers fixing up a building. There was a very tall ladder, and George could not resist. He is curious. He scampered up 40 rungs and past 41 windows. What a view! From up on top of the ladder, George counted 42 people. One of them was his friend, Betsy. "Hi, George," Betsy said when he climbed down to see her. "Your friend told me you're learning to count." Then George walked Betsy to her school. "Why don't you come inside?" she asked him. "There are lots of things to count inside." I bet that's true in a school. Have you ever been into a school? Have you ever found things to count? Betsy was right. There were plenty of things to count in her classroom. While George's friend talked to the teacher, what do you think George is doing while George's friend talks to the teacher? Let's see. George counted 43 sparkly beads, 44 jars of paste, and 45 crayons. On the table, 46 colorful feathers were laid out. George was curious. What were they for? Uh-oh. I hope he's not too curious about the feathers. Betsy's classmates were making hats and decorations for a special celebration. George wanted to make decorations too. In fact, he turned himself into a decoration. Then George's new friends cleaned off 47 colored strips of paper. Oh, and a whole lot of glue. Silly George. George is counting all the way to 50, Betsy said. Susan said, "We can help. How about counting paper clips?" She and her sister Sarah helped George find 48 paper clips. A moment later, the bell rang and everyone was on the move. George counted 49 wheels. Then it was time for him to go home too. That's a lot of wheels. I love how creative George is being at counting. George ran and ran. He ran, do it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50 steps all the way back to the man with the yellow hat. His friend was so happy to see him. "You did it, George," his friend said proudly. "You used your own 2 feet to count all the way up to 50. And guess what? You did too. Good job, you helped him. Well, thank you so much to Hans Augusto Rey and his wife Margaret, who made this fun book for us. We'll keep seeing if we can find more Curious George stories. Stay hopeful, stay true, and be wonderful, special little you.